Former first-round pick and current NFL linebacker Reuben Foster has seen his share of highs and lows. One of the highest moments of Reuben's career was on January 11, 2016, when he recorded 8 solo tackles in a national championship game versus the Clemson Tigers. For that short period of time, Reuben was on top of the world, but only a few short months later, a fatal shooting incident would drag dude right back down to earth. On April 23, 2016, a total of 3 people tragically lost their lives outside a club in Auburn, Alabama. One of the victims, Rico Cobb, had been a close friend of Reuben, and the gunshot that took Rico's life would forever ring loudly in Reuben's ears. I'd imagine that this isn't the type of moment that a person would ever forget, but for Reuben, a different shot had been ringing deep inside his subconscious, and we talking way before this night. When Reuben was just a baby, his dad, Danny Foster, did the unthinkable. This cat really fired a gun at Reuben's mom, and to make matters 100 times worse, he took that shot at her while she was holding an 18-month Reuben in her arms. Reuben's mom suffered a collapsed lung from the unforgivable incident, and baby Reuben suffered a wound to his back. They could have both easily lost their lives that day, and to think the cat who was supposed to provide for and protect them was the one who pulled the damn trigger. How do you cope with something like this? I have no idea. In comic books and movies, a tragic backstory usually means you'll grow up to become a superhero or a supervillain. But in real life, it's usually a lot more subtle. In real life, you just continue on. You try your best to fit into society until one day, the lingering effects start to shine through. Reuben Foster was seen as a top 10 pick not long ago, but an incident at the 2017 NFL Combine, along with some other concerns, would cause dude to slip way down on teams' draft boards. Since then, he's only played in a total of 16 games, and a player who recorded 5 sacks as a senior at Alabama has yet to record his first sack as a professional. But at 27 years old, is it too late for Reuben to get his life and career back on track? This is what happened to Reuben Foster, the former first-round pick who currently doesn't have an NFL home. Without further ado, y'all already know what time it is, man. Cue the Wayne. Alright, before we jump in, a quick word from today's video sponsor, Manscaped. So Manscaped is a regular sponsor on the channel, and they always send me these products to try out. I've been using a lot of these for months, and they've really become a part of my regular routine. Now, if you haven't tried these out yet, one of the best ways to jump in is through the Performance Package 3.0 kit. This includes their flagship product, the Lawnmower 3.0. You talking about a beastly little product, man. Waterproof, safe on the skin, and you got the cool LED light for added precision. Then you got your ball deodorant and ball toner to keep you fresh throughout the day. One of my favorite things about this kit is the fact that it covers you from head to toe. You got the weed whacker to trim your nose and ear hairs, plus shears for your fingernails and toes. Like I said before, the kit is clutch. It really assists you in keeping yourself up and well kept. Now, also for a limited time, they're throwing in 2 free gifts. You got the shared travel bag, which I use all the time, and the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer brief. So go to manscaped.com today, save 20% off your order, and get free international shipping. Links in the description. Go check it out. Shout out to Manscaped once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, let's get it. Now, a quick search would suggest that kids don't start forming memories until the age of 3. But as usual, dig a little bit deeper and you find out a little bit more to the story. An article from the Better Health channel states that trauma can have serious effect on babies and toddlers. Many people incorrectly believe that babies do not notice or remember traumatic events, when in fact, anything that affects older children and adults in a family can also affect the baby. Now, traumatic and life-threatening events may include car accidents, traumatic death in the family, crime, abuse, or your father shooting both you and your mom. Yeah, that just might do it. This suggests that the insane incident that an 18-month-old Reuben had to live through, in one way or another, definitely left its mark on Reuben. Reuben grew up in Auburn, Alabama, but moved to Georgia when he was in middle school. He quickly showed off his athletic prowess by easily dunking a basketball as a 7th grader. But it wasn't long before Reuben fell in love with a different sport, one that's played with a little bit more violence. wins. Check out this quote. There's that moment when you first hit somebody and you get the chills. You hear the crowd say, ooh, and before that, when you put on your suit and you transform and you become a dog, you're a beast. Just seeing all the other guys become a dog with you, no stress. When Reuben was only a high school freshman, his dog mentality quickly gained him respect of all the upperclassmen. But it wasn't too long before that respect grew into an all-out reverence as the freshman went toe-to-toe with Under Armour All-American and future NFL running back Isaiah Crowell. Reuben played that game with a broken arm and still managed to stand above all others. He finished his freshman campaign with 110 tackles, and the stats only get more and more ridiculous as time passes by. Sophomore season, 112 tackles. Junior year, 185 tackles, with 18 of them being quarterback sacks. While following Reuben's junior season, his high school coach was fired for using a somewhat innovative recruiting pitch.
Tell you pay these guys. Great cash, homie.
So following that incident, Reuben moved back to the state of Alabama, transferring to Auburn High for his senior season. While his individual numbers were down a bit from previous years, Reuben showed he had only gotten better as a player, winning MVP honors at the 2013 Under Armour All-American game. As one of the nation's top recruits, Reuben had hella offers when it came to his college choice, but in the end, it all came down to two schools. Reuben had originally committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide, but after attending Auburn High, dude flipped his commitment to Auburn University. Bama cried foul play, which triggered a whole NCAA investigation. Y'all know how these schools do it, man. They took it very, very far, but Reuben actually took it a few steps further, trying to prove his commitment to Auburn University. Like, this was kind of crazy. Check this out. First, there was this quote. At the end of the day, I feel like Auburn University is the place for me and my family. I am 100% confident with my final decision. So that's a strong statement. That is a hard commit, but Reuben still felt he wanted to do a little bit more to show his reverence and his commitment to the school. This man proceeded to take it several steps too far, in my humble opinion, by getting the full Auburn logo tattooed on his arm before he even signed his letter of intent. Then after that, college football happened. Gene Chizik got fired and Reuben decommitted and decided to attend Bama after all while proudly rocking his Auburn tattoo. Had to be a little bit awkward, and all them crazy ass people from the Roll Tide War Eagle 30 for 30. Oh, I know they was losing their damn minds.
I hate Auburn. If Auburn was playing Russia, I'd have to pull for Russia.
But instead of covering it up, Reuben actually decided to keep an altered version of the tattoo. He actually gave it meaning, changing it to a tribute for his cousin, former Auburn fullback Ladarius Phillips, who lost his life. Rest in peace, Ladarius. Reuben saw a little bit of playing time during his first couple of seasons at Bama, and I'm sure he probably got impatient at times, but these years would ultimately prove to be the foundation for an extremely bright future. However, during that same time period, Reuben would form a connection that would slowly eat away at that very foundation. Now, I obviously do not know this young lady or Reuben personally, and I'm not saying that either of them is a bad person on their own, but what I do know is that them together was kind of a recipe for disaster. More on that in a second. We got a little bit more football to talk about first. Let's go. Reuben didn't get the starting job until his junior season at Alabama, but when he finally got his chance, dude didn't waste any time asserting himself as a staple on that defense, finishing second on the team in tackles with 73 and also recording 2 sacks. Bama's defense was stacked as usual with NFL elites like Eddie Jackson, Marlon Humphreys, and Minka Fitzpatrick, just to name a few. On offense, they had Derrick Henry, Calvin Ridley, Kenyon Drake, and OJ Howard. Throw in Reuben and an all-time great coach, and yeah, that's a recipe for a national championship. Like I teased in the intro, this was Reuben's finest moment, and for a short time, dude stood at the very top of the sport. Then on the night of April 23rd, Reuben was present at a nightclub back in his hometown of Auburn, Alabama, when a triple homicide took place. After an altercation, one man shot 3 other guys, taking their lives. Reuben's presence alone at this party sparked debates about his judgment, his character, and the company that he kept. But it all seemed unfair and uncalled for, given the fact that the reports are clear. Reuben didn't have nothing to do with it. But despite that literal fact, this would not stop people from forever associating Reuben Foster with, this type of situation. In many ways, it's a modern tragedy. Reuben's first time finding himself in close proximity to a gunshot was back when dude was only 18 months old. This time, Reuben wasn't physically hurt, but in both situations, people he cared about were deeply affected. One of the men that lost their lives that night was a friend of Reuben's. Shaken by the events that took place, Reuben posted this on his Twitter account following the incident, a not so subtle reminder of how quickly things can go left. So from the national championship to this, and unfortunately, Reuben's life would kind of continue this pattern over the next several years. An extreme high followed by an extreme low. But over time, the highs would get less extreme and the lows would get more extreme. It really sucks. During Reuben's senior year, dude was able to put it all together on the field. Maybe he was refocused by the tragedy he endured that offseason. Dude was everywhere, diagnosing plays like he'd been standing in the offensive huddle. He recorded 115 tackles and 5 sacks on his way to being awarded the Butkus Award, the trophy given to the best linebacker in the entire nation. Bama went back to the national championship for the second straight season, but this time they fell to Clemson. Now this was obviously still an unbelievably successful season for Reuben. It was so good, in fact, he was now ranked as the top inside linebacker in his draft class, and he was seen as a top 10 pick. But as I foreshadowed throughout the video, his time in the sun would quickly be followed by a period of darkness. Leading up to the NFL draft, it was announced that Reuben underwent surgery on a torn rotator cuff, which caused him to miss the Senior Bowl. Then, during the NFL Combine, the time where even the worst of cats are on their best behavior, Reuben did something that threatened to knock a top 10 pick completely out of the first round. According to reports, Reuben went to the Combine and got into a heated argument with one of the doctors because he didn't like the way he was being treated. Now the whole he didn't like the way he was being treated thing, that could mean a lot of different things, but it would later come out that one part of that at least was the fact that he didn't want to have to wait in line. Dude was getting frustrated with the long lines. It was going full diva, even playing the "Do you know who I am" card. It's like, dog, you're here with all college football stars. You just one of them in this situation. Just stand in line, bro. You've been working your whole life for this. You gonna throw it away over standing in line for 20 minutes? You'll be all right. Now, once the doctor told him he had to wait in line like everybody else, the story goes like this. Reuben gets pissed off and kind of argues back and forth with the doctor, and at some point during their exchange, it was reported that he said or insinuated that he was gonna put hands on the doctor for not letting him skip the line. Like, come on, bro. Like, so when each team came around, ready to interview Reuben Foster, ready to sit down with him, they have to find out that he got sent home for getting into it with the goddamn doctor, bro. You want to talk about tanking your draft stock? Yeah, that'll do it. This is where cats gotta understand how the interview process works. It's an interview, bro. If you go in for the job interview, I don't care how good your resume is. If you threaten to beat up the damn receptionist, you probably not gonna get hired. That's just usually how it goes. But on top of that fiasco, those doctors that you're getting into it with are literally the ones who are gonna be analyzing your blood tests. And I'm not saying that they would do something shady, but they're human, and a lot of humans do shady shit all the time. So when somebody got access to your blood test, or it's like a waiter who got access to your food, control what you can control. Just try to be nice. You feel me? Let's see what happens next. Oh yeah, Reuben fails his drug test as it came back as a diluted sample, and a diluted sample is treated the same as a positive at the NFL Combine. At this point, dude has completely botched this. Like, he has done probably the worst possible job you could possibly do at the Combine. He got sent home, he failed the drug test, he didn't run or do none of the workout stuff. He would have literally done better just staying at home. But fortunately for Reuben, talent will afford you second and third chances. That's the way it goes. But even for a guy who's as immensely talented as Reuben Foster, still, there are limits, something he would learn the hard way. On draft day, Reuben nearly slipped to the second round, but the 49ers took their shot with the final pick of the first round. Making Reuben a first round pick, he just made it. Due to Reuben's questionable judgment, this was seen as a risky pick, but Given the fact with what they had to spend and the upside this dude had, it was easily a risk worth taking. Early on, it all seemed to be paying off, as in Reuben's first game, he started out pretty damn hot. On the first 10 snaps of his career, dude recorded 3 solo tackles, including a tackle for loss and a pass deflection. You remember the highs and lows theme, right? First 10 snaps extremely promising, but on the 11th snap, he snapped his damn ankle and missed the next 5 games. As a rookie who only played 10 games, Pro Football Focus gave this man a grade of 90.7. This is insanely good. It was easily the highest grade amongst rookies at his position, and it was good enough to rank him 4th throughout the entire league, okay? Only 3 inside linebackers were rated more highly than a rookie who only played 10 games. The dude had talent, and his future looked extremely bright, as he seemed to be on the way to becoming an elite NFL player. But no matter how good things looked on the surface, Reuben's foundation was crumbling. See, the foundation to his career was being eaten away at by a toxic relationship, one that started way back in college. On top of that, Reuben's inability to deal with his emotions and make sound decisions would soon be pushed to the forefront. And unfortunately, all those people who were casting dispersions on Reuben since that incident that he didn't have anything to do with way back in college, they were back. And this time, there was actually some validity to what they were saying. And the thing that sucks the most is that Reuben was unwittingly giving them all the ammunition that they would ever need. Quick recap of Reuben's 2018. That January, dude was arrested for possession of marijuana. Not a huge deal. That February, he was arrested on suspicion of domestic violence, threats, and assault weapon possession. That escalated pretty fast. But then in April, his girlfriend, who called the police on him in the first place, made a statement saying that he never struck her, he never injured her or threatened her, basically saying she made the entire thing up. She even testified under oath that this was a fabricated story and that it was all just a money scheme. Don't even act surprised. I told y'all this was a toxic relationship, bro. We talking about toxic and dangerous. This is one of those situations where none of us know the actual truth. People think they know, but if you wasn't there, you really don't know the truth. Because here's the thing about Reuben's girl at the time, right? She had actually lied on a dude in the past and said he assaulted her, and then later admitted that she was lying. So yes, she has a history of this, but also, if we're just talking about the part about the threats, we know Reuben got a little bit of a history with that if you just look at the way he flipped out at the combine. So I could see any of this being true. The actual full truth to the story is probably somewhere in the middle, but because it's one of those young kind of unhealthy relationship, it makes both parties in the relationship not really the best source of reliable information, because these relationships just run so hot and cold. Like one day you'll be ready to take the stand and send a man to jail for 10 years, and the next day you'll be defending them, going all out for him. Same thing with the dude. Here's what I know though. I got enough information to know that once this situation was over, they should have went their separate ways. Like they'd be better off without each other. That's a fact. But a few months later, they were still messing around, and on a Saturday night at the team hotel, night before a game by the way, old girl was there in the parking lot with Reuben. They get into it. This man reportedly knocked her phone out of her hand, pushed her, and slapped her in the face. Again, this is according to the reports. This is basically her side of the story, so maybe she lied again, maybe she's fabricating another story, or maybe this actually happened. But to go to Reuben, again, you gotta control what you can control, and at this point, for you to still just be falling into this trap over and over and over, you've either got to figure out how to process your emotions or just keep your distance. Like I said at the beginning, Reuben's childhood trauma is probably one of the underlying reasons that are leading to these issues. And I'm pretty sure it at least plays a role in what seems to be just a magnetism toward this toxic thing. Like he keep going back to this. But you know what the hardest part is? And it took me a long time to understand this. Nobody gives a damn. Everybody got problems and they all worried about their own. Listen, that's a cold, hard truth, but Once you can accept that, only then can you truly start to make some real progress. As for Reuben, you gotta recognize and admit that you got some issues, bro. Whether they were created by that incident when you were a child or other things that took place throughout the course of your life. Once you admit that, you can get some help and then move forward with your life. And if you think that's dramatic, me saying that something's mentally wrong and is likely caused by the childhood trauma, just think about this. Think about the job that Reuben Foster had. Think about the fact that he did something that he loved to do and he made a ridiculous amount of money. He was willing to throw that away because he could not get past these issues. That's when you know it's strong, because he had to know he was running out of chances. After the incident outside the team hotel, the 49ers officially released Reuben Foster. So in 2018, only 1 year after being drafted in the first round and having a stellar rookie season, the 49ers let go of one of the best young players in the league. Shortly after, the charges against Reuben were dropped as there was insufficient evidence, and again, you have an accuser who has falsely accused people in the past. And at this point, you look at Reuben's rap sheet and you say, you know what? That was dismissed. He was acquitted for this. They didn't find him guilty of that. Most of the stuff he was accused of, he was actually not convicted for. That led to some people kind of looking at that in hindsight and saying the 49ers were wrong to release him in the first place. But, I disagree. Here's a quick lesson, and it's just real, bro. When people, or especially companies, have a choice to deal with somebody who just always seem to attract negativity, they seem to attract drama, they're gonna disassociate themselves with that person, whether that person is guilty or not. And I personally don't believe that's a bad thing. I believe you make your own luck. And if you make your own luck, that means you can control whether you're generally lucky or generally unlucky by the way that you move, the energy you carry, and even the people that you associate yourself with. So if you're one of those people that's living in that and it seems to be a dark cloud around every single corner, clean up your attitude, clean up your energy, and just stop hanging around people who insist on being miserable. Reuben kind of fell into that dark space, and once he did, everything seemed to go wrong. Once the dominoes started falling, dude just could not catch a break. So he gets released from the 49ers, and a few days later, he's picked up by Washington. Not long after, Reuben was cleared by the league and he suited up for his first practice with his brand new team. Then, on the very first day of practice, Reuben suffered yet another injury. This time it was an ACL and LCL tear. Now that injury took place at the beginning of 2019, and Reuben hasn't taken the field ever since. Today, the former first round pick is a 27-year-old what if story. What if he was able to stay out of trouble? What if he was able to avoid these injuries? Reuben is no longer with Washington and is currently a free agent, as his career has seemed to be at a standstill since his stellar rookie season. And the only time he seems to be in the news over the last several years was either because he was injured or getting in trouble. Look, man, we don't know what's left for Reuben Foster. Maybe he even signs with the team by the time this video actually comes out. But it's also entirely possible that we've already seen the best of Reuben Foster, as sometimes players never make it back from the situation that he currently finds himself in. He's gotten older and he's still trying to recover from a string of injuries. Then, due to his off-field troubles, he really hasn't done a lot to garner a lot of goodwill throughout the league. But it only takes one team, one opportunity to turn it all around. A refocused Reuben who's learned from his mistakes and is ready to come in and contribute to an organization, that can be a scary thing. So up until this point, that's what's happened to Reuben Foster. At 27 years old with only 16 NFL games under his belt, it's starting to get a little bit late in the game. But with that said, still time on the clock, and only time will tell if Reuben Foster can make that classic fourth quarter comeback. Peace.